Hello, Chaz Marler from Pair of Dice Paradise here, and several weeks ago you may recall that a video series listing my top 100 board games of all time was published on the Dice Towers YouTube channel. Spot number 7 on that list was occupied by the fairly recent game Imhotep. I fell in love with Imhotep the very first time that I played it. That is why I was very interested when I discovered a mini expansion for the game at GenCon last year. Now, can this expansion, comprised of just a single postcard-sized card, be worth the effort to track down? Well, let's find out as we take a look at the Imhotep mini expansion, the Stonemason's Wager. Please note that this overview assumes that the viewer is already familiar with how to play the base game Imhotep, so it's not going to go into detail about how to play the game itself. Instead, it's going to focus on the content of the Stonemason's Wager expansion. I hope that it still provides enough information to help you determine whether this expansion would be worth adding to your game library. Now with that in mind, let's find out more about it. In the Imhotep mini-expansion, the Stonemason's Wager, players will have the opportunity to place bets on which monument will be the grandest at the end of the game. The players who wager correctly will be awarded precious bonus points to add to their final score. The mini-expansion is comprised of just a card that's placed on the table next to the rest of the game. It contains several spaces corresponding to each of the main board locations: the temple, burial chamber, pyramid, and obelisks. Each one of these sections has 2 spaces below it in which stones can be placed. The number of spaces that are used depends on the number of players in the game. In a 2 or 3 player game, only the first space below each site shown on the card will be used. In a 4 player game, both spaces below each site on the card will be used. During their turn, players have one additional option available to them that they may take as the action on their turn. This action is to take a stone of their color from the quarry, not from their supply sled, and place it on any vacant space on the expansion card. Each player may take this action at most once per game. Any player that places a stone on the expansion card is betting that the corresponding site will have the most stones on it at the end of the game. And at the end of the game, the number of stones on each of the 4 sites is counted up. And for the site with the most stones, the player occupying the leftmost space for that site on the card receives 5 points. And the player in the rightmost space, if any, receives 3 points. For the site with the second most stones, the player occupying its leftmost space receives 3 points, and the player in the rightmost space receives 0 points. If multiple sites tie for the most stones, each player on the corresponding leftmost spaces receives 3 points, and the players on the rightmost spaces receive 0. If multiple sites tie for the second most stones, the player that bet on those sites receives 0 points. Now, while this is a very modest little expansion, I think that's what makes it work. Instead of introducing more places to build structures, or convoluted player powers, or surprise events to change the rules during the game, this expansion simply provides players with an additional option that they can take. The trick then, as with so many of the things in Imhotep, is deciding when taking this action will be the best use of your turn. And the fact that the stones placed on the promo card spaces come from the player's quarry instead of their sled also makes it less disruptive. Additionally, in my experience, the point spread in the final scores of Imhotep can be close enough that the bonus points provided by the promo spaces could certainly make a difference in who wins. So that's why, if you enjoy Imhotep, I think it's worth tracking down a copy of the Stonemason's Wager promo expansion if you can do so. It adds another choice to the game, which requires timing and a little bit of luck, just like the rest of the game. And as for this overview, I hope it's been helpful too. And for more board game news, reviews, and commentary, be sure to subscribe to both the Pair of Dice Paradise and Dice Tower YouTube channels, and follow us on Facebook and Twitter for more board game conversations as well. In the meantime, I've been Chaz Marler from Pair of Dice Paradise, and take care.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.